Hello, Gemini. Welcome to Embrace the Moon Tarot and your June 2018 reading. I'm just focusing on heart, body, and soul for this month. And for the position for the heart, we have the sun, and I feel this is just representing something you're really pining for. And it feels a bit like nostalgia for better times, and even maybe a little bit of nostalgia of dreams that you once had and you don't dream anymore for some reason. So it's kind of like thinking back about a time in your life where things were good, but even though they were good, you also felt that momentum and that desire and that drive to dream of being bigger, better, expanding, where you could take yourself. Like you were at such a point that everything was so good that you could see like a really bright future, even better than what you were existing in. So, and it just, there's this overall sense of deep within your heart, you're pining for that again. Not so much that you want to be fantasizing of better times as much as you just are really yearning where you could feel at that place again where you feel that it's good and it's going to be good and it's going to continue being good. And it's just this, it's so hard. And it's not that you're mournful or sorrowful. I don't feel like there's a solemnness to this energy at all. It's just kind of this overall nostalgia in the sense of you have these moments where you think of, oh, if I just need to do this, or if I just continue to go in this direction, I really am hoping that these steps that I'm taking will get me back to that place where not only do I feel good where I'm at, but I'm creating so much energy within myself that I can feel the momentum that can take me to the next step and the next step and the next step. And it's all within my reach, and it's just a matter of taking those steps. So again, I don't feel that you're solemn. I don't feel that there's a sense of being mournful or having a deep-seated blues with this. It's just this longing of striving that each step that you're taking now gets you closer to where you can be back where you were, where you felt like you had a good foundation of just personal position and fire and fortuitiveness that fed itself and helped you to think of where you could go, and also give you that passion and fire, the momentum to take yourself there. So that is what I feel that you're entering into June. It's what you do with that that's going to make a difference. And, you know, and I say that just to say, just, you know, there's nothing wrong with you feeling that way. Just use it to your advantage. You know, whenever you're going through those time periods where you have these moments and you think about these things, you can figure out how you can kind of harness that to take you in the direction that you are longing to go. And to just usually just to move you out of the position that you're in. Not so much taking you into a specific direction, not always necessarily taking you to a specific destination, but more of kind of finding that energy and being able to harness it to move you from where you are. And knowing that once you move from where you are, you can handle the next step, whatever it is, when you get there. And then once you handle that, you can handle the next step after that. And sometimes that's all it is. It's just taking one step at a time. So just harness this feeling that you have, and knowing that everything that you dream, you can get yourself there. You one step at a time, you can take yourself there. But harness it. Don't allow it to overwhelm you. And I don't necessarily feel that you have that to worry about, as much as there might be pockets of time where you feel a bit overwhelmed. And when that happens, just remember that you can harness that and help you to take that step, to move from that position in that moment, even if it's to take a step to the left or the step to the right, so you're not under that cloud of overwhelm. Sometimes it's just taking that tiny little step. And if that's all that you have in that moment, that's just take it, so that you can kind of get out from under that and then continue to move forward. But baby steps comes to mind. And allow that to be your passion and your drive as you take each little baby step to get you in that direction of what you're dreaming and hoping and pining for. And allow it to be your motivation until the motivation kind of fuels itself, if that makes sense. Physically, we have Ace of Pentacles. It feels like for some of you, this is actually in direct relationship with job. So changes are afoot, as they say. And some of you are going to either have an opportunity to move in the job that you were already in and allow that to be a new opportunity and take you to a new direction. And some of you, it may be, I feel like there's some of you who've been looking for something. And around that first week, end of the first week, beginning of the second week, it's going to come. And then it just comes down to you deciding, is that really the fit you still desire? And you're also being told that if it's not the fit you desire, that's okay too. And that's just for a few of you. There's a few of you who were striving for something specific, and then that's going to now present itself. And now you're going to be kind of looking at it. Is that still what you want? Is it still going to fulfill that desire? Or have you grown past that? And the direction you're headed, is it time to be pursuing something slightly different? And you're being told it's okay to ask those questions. Just be wise with the answer. Take account in who you are, where you are right now, and your needs, and making sure your needs are met. But it's okay to ask those questions for those of you who that may arise. But just some changes within jobs and careers for some of you. And then, so we have the Justice, and balance is just the first word that comes to mind. Balance. Balancing the heart and the soul. Realizing that it's not always the size that factors in as far as weight, if you were to put it on the scales that the Lady Justice is holding. Just kind of recognizing, I'm trying to think of how to word this. Just recognizing that sometimes what presents itself as the wisest things, but we know that it's going to drain us of our soul. That it tips the scales in the wrong direction. And so sometimes what we consider logical, because society has taught us, this is the next logical step and you must take it. A good example would be, so you're with somebody and you've been with somebody in a relationship for a really long time. And you get to a point where everybody starts asking, when are you getting married? When are you getting married? When are you getting married? And next thing you know, you feel like, we should probably get married. We've been together long enough. We should probably get married. That doesn't necessarily mean that because you've had pressure from society, whatever makes up that particular points of pressure for you, make it applicable. Doesn't necessarily mean that that is the next step for you. You have to take into account all the variables of you and the person that you're in a relationship with. Another example that we usually feel pressured by society is once you are married, even if you're not married but you're still together, usually you start getting asked, when are you going to have a baby? When are you going to have a baby? When are you going to have a baby? And next thing you know, you start to kind of think, maybe we should be having it. This is the next step. It's the most logical next step. Sometimes what is the most logical next step, especially when society has kind of ingrained us with, you do this step, and then you do this step, and then you do this step, and all will be right with the world. That's not always necessarily the case. And this, you can find tons of stories, you can find those women who say, we got married and I didn't want a child. We didn't have a child. And sometimes that means we decided to adopt. Sometimes that means we just didn't want kids. We didn't have kids. We wanted to pursue this. There's nothing wrong with that. I feel like this is the kind of scenario that the justice scales and that balance is sort of presenting. So those stories are aside. Those are just stories, metaphors, something that you can kind of apply as trying to figure out how this may apply to you. But the bottom line is that I feel like there is a point in your life where you're going to come up on this situation where you know what the next logical step is. And you feel the pressure of everybody who's watching you, however that applies, waiting for you to take that step because, again, it's the next logical step. But you know within your heart and soul, no matter how logical it is, it does not fit. It doesn't fit. It doesn't suit. It's going to drain you of your heart and soul. And you really don't want to make that choice because it may be the logical step by society's standards, but it is not the next logical step for your standards. So this is sort of the conundrum that I feel that you are going to be coming up against. And it is something that I feel you're going to spend a good bit of time weighing consistently on the scales, putting the logical of society's family standards, whatever, community standards, whatever it is, the typical logical scenario for logical standards, you'll be weighing those against your own personal standards. And it's going to be this back and forth, and the scale's going to tip one direction, and then you're going to consider your heart side, and it's going to tip in the other direction. And so it's just one of those things that you're going to have to face, you're going to have to work through, you're going to have to weigh out. It might even be one of those things where you'll do good to sit down and write the pros and cons of both sides so you can actually see it and kind of make a decision from there. And hopefully either you'll find a middle ground that meets the next logical step by society standards and merges it really well with your heart and soul standards. But that might not be the case. It might be that you have to maybe take that step and just not conform, which sometimes can be scary for some people. But this is all up to you. And it's one of those things where there's no right or wrong as much as it's just whether or not it's right or wrong for you personally. Does that make sense? So this is just something that I feel that's going to be and it's not even going to be immediate. This is going to be, I feel it may be even linked with this for some of you, that new job opportunity. But either way, somewhere along the line, and it feels closer to the second week of June, but somewhere along the line, you're definitely going to be weighing the scales of trying to figure out what is justified for you in your life and where you want to head in what direction. So that's what I got for you from that. Now, I went ahead and pulled a card from Spirit, and we have, when I'm connected to my joyful presence, I attract support from the universe. And it really goes back to, tapping into what it is that your heart wants and a bit of what you are pining for. And even when I began the reading, as far as pining for that desire that you have of what will motivate you and fuels that motivation and makes this beautiful cycle of just feeling motivation and being motivated and doing things that fuels the motivation and so on and so forth. So a little bit of that, along with a little bit of that weighing that you may have to face at some point. Just knowing that if you take the time, take the breather, connect with your soul, connect with the divine, and know that, when you are connected and you seek what things makes the soul happy, light, and joyful, you're supporting yourself. And by supporting yourself, you're supporting your soul. And by that, you are going to continue to receive support from the universe when you make these decisions. And again, if I go back to what I said about, it's not a matter of that the decision is right or wrong as much as what is right or wrong for you personally. And when you decide that and you pursue it, the universe will support it. And the caveat to that is, and if you decide something and then you go along and after so long you decide that it no longer fits, you'll be supported in that too. So just one step at a time, baby steps, take the time to weigh, but just connect with your inner source, inner presence, the most authentic version of yourself while you're weighing through this. And know that the decision that you make will be supported. When you support yourself, there's so much power in that, isn't there? All right, Gemini, that is all I have for you for this month. I hope it's a great one. Make it a fantastic one, and I will hopefully see you in July.